Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Hey there, Malcontents. Here's the Malcontent, and today is Friday, November 26th. Hanukkah's going to start in a couple of hours. Yay. I'm aware that the ticker is out of date, and so I'm going to turn them off. And I'll be going here and turning them off. We're going to go ahead and let audience build up here for just a couple more seconds, and we'll go ahead and get started. I know it's midday. I know there was no promo on this. I'm going to share everything that I know about the Omicron variant. If you have not been up to our website, malcontentnews.com, there was a story that was posted about 15 hours ago. Ta-da! There's a story posted about 15 hours ago that had everything we knew 15 hours ago. Things are moving. Charlie, hello to Indianapolis. Thank you for joining us from over there. There is so much information coming out. It is coming out so fast, and there is already a sea of disinformation that is coming out in parallel with it at the same time. This is impossible to address in a 60-second video, a 3-minute video, a 1,000-word article. So I'm opening this up as a Q&A. There are going to probably be some questions that people are going to ask that, quite frankly, I'm going to defer. That I'm just like, that's for an epidemiologist. That's for a medical expert. I don't confidently have the answer. I will say that our community that we're engaged with of people who are medical experts, epidemiologists, has expanded significantly in the last 60 days. And so a lot of what I'm going to share has been informed by communication with those people, as well as some stuff that's publicly available and what we were able to dig up on our own. So, and with that said, you can go ahead and drop your questions over in the comments. Comments. And I will be checking on them from time to time. And so with that, let me drop that over here. I do have some slides. We haven't done slides in forever, and I do have some slides. So let's go ahead and do the slides. And again, I am aware that the ticker is outdated, so we're just going to go ahead and turn that ticker off. The WHO met today. So when we wrote our story 15 hours ago, we knew that the WHO was getting ready to meet. They've met. They have named this Omicron. They did not name this Ni, which is NU, new. I'm not finding an explanation on why they skipped Ni. I did not see Ni. It's just cracking me up because Monty Python pops in my head. We are the viruses that go Ni. I don't know why they skipped knee. It is not on the list of previous variants of interest that were named. So I don't know why they skipped it. I don't know if they're just, it sounds too cute. We're going to call it, I don't know, but it's Omicron. Everyone was looking at the Greek alphabet and going, knee or nu was going to be the next one. It has been declared a variant of concern. We're going to get into what that means, and we're going to look at the trajectory of other variants of concern. So for something to be called, there are two things that the WHO will do. There is, if they give it a Greek alphabet name, there's VOIs, variants of interest, and then there is VOC, variants of concern. That's the highest ranking that something can get. When I say something, one of the variants. In order for something to be labeled a variant of interest, think of a variant of interest as like, we should, we're watching you. That's kind of what, in this really oversimplified terms, that's what a variant of interest is. How does something become a variant of interest? It needs to have genetic changes that are predicted or known to affect virus characteristics such as transmissibility, disease severity, immune escape, diagnostic or therapeutic escape, and, so it's not an or, and has been identified as causing significant community transmission or multiple COVID-19 clusters. What we mean by COVID-19 clusters, I call them hotspots. In the press, we typically call them hotspots. Right now, I'm not going to use that because people are going to run with the comparison. It just you have pockets where there's a lot of these cases popping up in multiple countries with increasing relative prevalence alongside an increasing number of cases over time. So the line is going like this, or other apparent epidemiological impacts to suggest an emerging risk to global public health. So that's what a VOI is. This is a variant of concern. So what is a variant of concern? First of all, variant of concern must have those two things. And then it must also have at least one of the next three things. Increase in transmissibility or detrimental change in COVID-19 epidemiology, or increase in virulence, makes people sicker, or change in clinical disease presentation, something that is so different from what we are seeing to the point that it's like, how do we treat this? Or decrease in effectiveness of public health and social measures or available diagnostics, vaccines, or therapeutics. Remember, those aren't ands. It's not and, it's or. We're going to get into what do we know and what we don't know. So why was this called a VOC? Right now, what we're seeing in this is the first one, increase in transmissibility. And we're going to get into what those numbers look like. There is concern about a decrease in the effectiveness of public health and social measures that are currently available today. K variable, that is you've gotten to the punchline. And that is the big question. And the answer for right now is, I'll get to the punchline. So what do we know? Let's talk about that transmissibility. So this was a chart that came out yesterday that is showing the growth that has happened in South Africa on the sequence cases compared to Beta, Delta, and at the time this chart was made, this was still B11529. It's now Omicron. So if you're like going Beta, what the heck was Beta? Beta was a variant that came out about the same time as Alpha, winter of 2020. It emerged in South Africa. It was one of particular concern. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine was particularly really good in fighting Beta. That was one of the key reasons why I went with Team J&J. And as I say, yeah, the viral vector vaccines took the short bus to vaccine school. And that's why when I got my booster, I went with Moderna. That's a whole separate discussion. If you are thinking about mixing and matching boosters, talk to your healthcare professional. So what this is showing is the percentage of cases and the number of days that it took to get there. So we see that it took 100 days for Beta to reach 50% of cases in South Africa, and that's where it peaked. Because excuse me, it's not Omicron. The Alpha and Beta strains in South Africa started to decline at that point. Then if we look at Delta, and Delta to get to about 90% took 100 days. If we look at Omicron to become 90% of the cases in South Africa, it's taken 14 days. That's really concerning because that is showing it's not out competing because it's not competing with Delta in South Africa. We're going to get into a chart that shows that. But what this is showing is this has really high transmissibility. That's what this chart is showing. So let's get into that question because that leads into Sidewalk Carnage here. I saw you're out competing Delta by with Rhonda. Honey and garlic sounds horrible. It's not like a sick cough. I got a little stomach thing. It's not like stomach. I got like heartburn, like literally a stomach thing going. Anyway, this is, again, looking at South Africa and kind of going through. So here we are in April, right, of 2020. And over the summer, right, they have this surge right here. What we're seeing, well, what's other variants? Other variants is the original strain and some of the variants, but things that did not get names up to that point. So we have this spike. Now here's Beta, which was their winter of 2020 spike. And we see that this got all the way up to almost 20,000 cases a day, right? About 17,000-ish cases a day. And then Betas lingered. And then Alpha, which was the strain that we had, which is the strain that went through the UK during this period of time. And you could see that they got some Alpha cases. They're starting about the same time, and then it's fizzled out and disappeared. And now here's Delta. And of course, we know that Delta has a R naught of about 6. So it is highly transmissible. It is more than double the transmissibility rate of Beta and Alpha. And it is about 6 times more transmissible, 225% more transmissible than the original strain. So here's Delta. They got up to 20,000 cases a day. Interesting, following kind of the same little pattern that we've seen in other countries with the Delta, right? This secondary bump that seems to happen. And now they've come down here and they were down, South Africa was doing better than they were over the summer because here, as you can see, it's like life is back to normal. And now we see this little bump. And this is important because on the TikTok video that we did, one of the things on the highlight says number of cases are relatively low. However, the growth of the number of cases is something that is very concerning here and why all of these alarm bells have gone off in the last 24 hours. This is the chart of detected cases in South Africa. So starting on Monday, 529. Tuesday, about 868, going roughly off memory. So because I don't have the number there, I think it was 868. Don't get pedantic on me. On Wednesday, it was about 1250. And yesterday is up over 3,500. So we're seeing this curve, and it is going very, very fast. And one thing I wanted to look up, and I didn't look up when I did this slide. So 1 second here. It's because I want to do a comparo. Yeah, so South Africa has a very large population. It's almost 60 million people. So again, it's one thing to note here that this is still a small number of cases. Here's the other thing that's concerning. In the span of a week, they've gone from 1% positive, which when you're doing testing, when you're running your PCR tests, your lab PCR tests, I want to talk about PCR tests a little later because there's so much misinformation going on. It hurts the brain. When you do lab PCR tests, you ideally want to be around 3%. If you're under 3%, that's great. If you're at 3 to 5%, what that says is you are testing the population at a proper level. If you get over 5%, first of all, that means that you've got increasing transmission and you're under testing the community. If you're under 3%, there's nothing wrong with that, but you might be over testing. That's all. There's nothing wrong with over testing. It's just you might be over testing. South Africa went from 1% positive to 30% positive in a week. I haven't seen this. I have not seen numbers jump this quickly, this dramatically before. And so that is something that is of concern. So what do we know? 86 confirmed cases. Yeah, I know. Some other places are saying 87. What I counted was 86. Don't get pedantic on one case. Pedantic is like, it's 87. 86, that's what we were able, it's 87. This source is 80. It's like, it's one case. Let it go. I know. Some sources saying 87. We were able to count up 86. Belgium, let's go over what we know because this gets into this whole disinfo. Belgium, one case. This is a concerning one because this case appears to be through community transmission. The individual was unvaccinated. The good news is that this individual doesn't appear to be extremely sick. The fact that it's community transmission and not travel-related transmission indicates that, and we're going to get into that a little further in the deck, but that indicates that this is already in the wild and spreading undetected in the EU. That's what that means. Botswana, 4 cases. They're all 4 travel related. All 4 came from South Africa. So although it was first identified in Botswana, these 4 cases that were identified were people that traveled to South Africa and went back. All 4 are vaccinated, but we don't know the status. So what I mean by that is we don't know. Were they vaccinated more than 6 months ago? Did they get a booster shot? Which vaccination did they get? Because we know the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is pretty popular in Africa and pretty popular and used significantly also in the European Union. We know that the AstraZeneca, probably next to the Sputnik 5, is probably the one that's the most, you should have picked a better choice. And we know that. So we don't know any of those things. We don't know their age. We don't know if there's comorbidities, nothing. What we do know, it was travel related, and they were vaccinated. In Hong Kong, 2 cases. This is another one that's a little concerning. The first one was travel related. They were vaccinated, no booster, and they were vaccinated more than 6 months ago. They were vaccinated in May, June. So the reason I go, well, this is kind of good news, is we know that if you were vaccinated May, June timeline, you need a booster now. And we know that. So that, and the other thing is that was travel related. So, okay, that's good. Here's the next one. This one was community transmission. This person was also vaccinated, no boosters, vaccinated more than 6 months ago. This is why this is concerning. Hong Kong has doing an amazing job with exit and entry of the country and contact tracing and quarantine protocols and testing. So both of these people are in a quarantine hotel. They are in separate areas in the quarantine hotel. So they're not a couple. They're not people sharing a room. The first person was detected and had the Omicron case. The second person was in the hotel, had not traveled South Africa or the surrounding nations, and that person became sick a few days after this case was detected. Again, there's unknowns. We don't know age. We don't know which vaccines. We don't know if there's comorbidities. We don't know the status of how sick they are. There's a lot of unknowns. But what is concerning, and what this is supporting this very high transmissibility, is here you have 2 people in a quarantine facility. One probably arrived sick, travel-related case, and despite being in that quarantine facility, despite being okay, you're in your hotel rooms, that this case has spread within the confines of this quarantine hotel. That's concerning. Israel, they have 1 case confirmed and 2 probable cases. They're all travel related. They were all vaccinated and they all had boosters. That's concerning because they're all boosted. One had Pfizer. That's concerning. One had AstraZeneca. See, that's not surprising, right? Again, like the AstraZeneca vaccine, again, next to Sputnik 5. That's that one. I joke that Johnson & Johnson took the short bus to vaccine school. AstraZeneca was behind the gym smoking cigarettes. And they just graduated AstraZeneca because they wanted it out of high school, which isn't to say that it's totally ineffective. It's just, it's not the best one out there. And then the last one, Johnson & Johnson, a viral vector vaccine. The concern, again, these are all with boosters. So that's kind of yikes. But we don't know how sick. We don't know age. We don't know comorbidities. And we also know they're travel related. South Africa, someone's probably going to go in the comments. There's 22. The number is now 77. I put 22, and I looked it up. There's now 77 confirmed, 990 probable. And again, because we know there were 3,500 cases yesterday, so that, do the math. That's 2,500 under investigation. Looking at your comments, oh my God, it's so friggin' political. So people might be looking at these numbers and going, well, this isn't a lot of cases. Why is everybody freaking out over this? It isn't. And this is the thing. There's like this real visceral reaction. I have spent way too much time today playing whack-a-mole over on our TikTok channel, dealing with comments, blocking people, deleting disinformation comments, and frankly, comments I want to leave up, but I know how the TikTok game is played, and it's like, and I am also starting to learn how to identify bot accounts and troll farm accounts. They're actually, now that I know what to look for, they're actually pretty easy to spot. And I know that these are the accounts that if I don't start blocking them, the bot mass report machine is going to go on and the video is going to get taken down. I'm getting a content strike for no good reason. So I've been spending more hours than I really wanted to today managing that account. And that's been painful. The reason that there is so much concern here is there's this question of transmissibility. And I'm going to get into what some of the early numbers are suggesting. It's not Omicron. Let's talk a little bit about the mutations. And this gets into why are people going like, over this? Omicron has over 50 mutations. 32 of those mutations are on spike proteins. So what does that mean? Delta, this is more than double the number of mutations that Delta had. That's the first thing. This isn't an incremental jump. Some epidemiologists are using, and not epidemiologists that I'm talking to. The people I'm talking to are taking a much more measured approach, but are saying that this is almost an evolutionary jump, that this was not a jump that we would have expected to see. This is like has skipped a couple of rungs on the ladder. Now, how did this happen? Viruses are constantly mutating. That is the nature of viruses. That is the nature of any living, breathing thing. We have cells that mutate in our body all the time. We have mutations, right? When we have children, there are mutations that, and people hear mutation and think they're not all bad. Mutations get introduced all the time. Like the moles. I have them. That's just the mutation. I have moles because of mutation. All right, fine. As my sister used to call them chocolate chips. She said that's what made me so sweet as a kid. Yeah, it's just kind of weird to me that she would say that. Okay. Everything has mutations. But this, again, has double. 32 of those mutations on spike proteins. Why is that? Oh, no, don't tell me that. The spike proteins is how the coronavirus works. You've seen pictures of the coronavirus, right? You see this round ball, it's got all these little spiky things, and it kind of looks like a sun or a crown, hence the name coronavirus. And coronavirus isn't just SARS-CoV-2, and it's not just MERS, and it's not just SARS. The common cold is in the coronavirus family. That's why you remember back in early 2020, and people were like, they knew this was coming because look on these wipes, look on this Lysol. It says kills coronavirus. It's like, yeah, it said it kills coronavirus on that bottle of Lysol for years and years and years, because there are hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of coronaviruses that come in all different flavors. And there are some that are like the common cold, and there are some like MERS, right? Because MERS is probably the worst. And then you have stuff like SARS-CoV-2, which is on the, the other side of the thing. So, common cold is cute kitten, and MERS is bloodthirsty, rabid, starving baboon, and and SARS-CoV-2 is a rabid raccoon chewing on your face. That is the spectrum of what we have here. If you want to put them on there, so that's how they work. The spike proteins. Think of them almost like Lego blocks, right? They wanna fit into the cell. They fool the cell because they go clunk, link. See, my spike protein lines up with this protein, so you want me. And the cell goes, oh yes, it does line up, and in it goes. The way that disease-acquired immunity, vaccine immunity works is antibodies bind to those spike proteins. Think of it as putting like a Lego block. Remember I'm saying click Lego block. So think of it as like putting a little Lego, adding a little Lego in there. So then when it tries to go into the cell, can't, because that's it. And then the B cells, which is your Yeoman duty in your immune system, they're the ones that they're the beat cops. I know some people don't like this analogy because ACAB, it's an analogy that people most understand, right? These are the beat cops. These are cops that are just rolling around looking for trouble in the police cruisers. Like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And the B cells take care of this. End of story. Now, if the B cells, when you have a mutation like Delta, what happens is think of it this way. You have the B cells that have a picture of COVID, but the picture they have of COVID is that original strain. And what Delta has done is it's like it's put on a wig and it grew a beard. And I got a suntan. So they're walking down, hey, let's stop and frisk this one over here. And they're like, I'm looking at the picture. This isn't the wanted dude. And he's like, yeah, I'm not the wanted dude. I fooled you. And they're able to slip into the cell because the B cells aren't going on. They're not getting the bonding on those spikes. It goes, hello, healthy cell. Healthy cell goes, hi. It goes, let's make a merger. It goes in, takes over the cell, replicates virus, go on. But then what happens is you have the T cells. Think of T cells as like the Vice Squad or the gang unit. Again, I know people don't like it, but it's an easy analogy to understand. They are more focused. They have deeper intelligence, right? They got stuff going on. And what the T cells are going on is like, you know what? We're getting a lot of 911 calls because when cells are infected with virus, they send out a little marker. Like, help! I've been taken over. Help! So they're getting a bunch of 911 calls. And hey, B cells, what's going on? The B cells are, oh, no. We checked it out. It's okay. We took care of some herpes. We found some herpes cells. We took care of that. There's a little norovirus going on. We kicked that ass. It's all good. Everything's good. Things are good. We're getting a lot of 911. So then the T cells might come along and go, what the hell's going on here? And the T cells, wait a minute. You're wearing a wig and you grew a beard. Hey, B cells, this is what we're looking for right here. What are you doing? And this, boom, then you get it. This is why we are seeing some vaccine breakthrough with the Delta variant, because we have this variation. And so the B cells are starting to forget. But we're getting this secondary immune response with the T cells. They're going, oh, you clever, and we need B cells. But then what is happening? You get a breakthrough case. Maybe you get some mild illness because the body's natural immune response turns on at this point because it wants to protect you. I know that this is a big, long explanation on the spike proteins. The concern that scientists, epidemiologists, researchers have, 32 modifications on the spike protein are a lot. And I'm going to get into, let's go back to the slide. We're going to get into this slide right here and what the different colors mean. So if we go over here and we start with the red, I think everybody can figure out what red is. Red's no bueno. What red means, here, let's do this. We'll move me over here. What red means, these are known and already seen mutations, and they have been seen in other variants of concern: alpha, beta, gamma, delta. We've already seen these, we know these, and we know they're not good. And this one's got a lot of them. The purple are, we have not seen these before. This is new to Omicron, but these are not in a good place. We don't want to see mutations here because they are essentially in the red zone and we haven't seen them before. The next one we have here are these, a handful of these over here in the yellow. So what does yellow mean? Yellow means we haven't seen these before. We know this means something, and this probably isn't in a good place. We probably don't want to see these mutations here, but we're not sure because we haven't seen them before. And we don't know what the impact of these mutations in the yellow area are. And we don't know the relationship with all of the other mutations. Now, the ones that are in the green, there's like, we've seen these mutations before. They have appeared in VOCs and VOIs, and they have been around for a long time. And we know that these do not affect severity of illness, transmissibility, or vaccine escape. And we know that. So these, even though these mutations are here, we don't have to worry about that. And now we have these ones over here in blue, and we've got a fair number of them. And what this is we haven't seen these before in a VOC. We don't know what they mean at all. And we have to figure out, are these good, bad, or indifferent? And we don't know. So this is the constellation of these 50 plus mutations that we're seeing. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of these mutations that are in the red area where we don't want to see them. So that's why I gave this really big, long explanation about spike proteins, why they matter, and why this is really important in understanding how something can spread. There is a computer model that's been run out of South Africa. And I know some people are like, South Africa. South Africa is doing an amazing job with this variant. This variant was detected in November, in November 9. That was the first, hey, we got something here. And the alarm bells went off on November 25. And we actually know what to look for. We know how to track it. And they have done tremendous coordination with the World Health Organization, other nations, and with data sharing. It appears, first of all, it appears they've put a fair amount of money into this as a nation. The second thing that it appears, they learned a lot from beta, and they did a good job with beta, but they learned a lot and applied it in how do we track another variant if it comes up. And they're getting high praise for the work that they are doing here. Jennifer's bingo. That's let's not be so dramatic. I'm not saying that to like zing you, but let's not be so dramatic on when people start dying. First of all, it takes longer typically for people to die from severe COVID when they get severe COVID, but we will know a lot more in 2 to 4 weeks, and that's probably the biggest takeaway from all of this. So we're going to know in about 2 to 4 weeks, but they've done a great job. They've run computer models, and the computer models are based on what we know about SARS-CoV-2 up to this point. There are indications that this constellation of mutations will be supportive of vaccine escape. Does that mean the vaccine is worthless? No. Like, this is another piece of disinfo that is just flying out there. No, that does not mean that the vaccines have become useless. It may mean that vaccines have become less effective. This may mean that for the viral vector vaccines, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Sputnik 5, that these vaccines, which were already on the line, particularly AstraZeneca and Sputnik 5, they were already on the line of being at 60-65% effective on single dose protocols. They're on the line. So do these now become ineffective? Here's the next question. If this has vaccine escape. How quickly can they come up with a new version? I'm not going to go deep here. I'm going to go very shallow. What I have read is mRNA vaccines are pretty easy to tweak. And because it gets down to, okay, we know the spikes and we know what message to send on how to go and put the right Lego block on so that it will attach to the spike so the spike can't attach to the cell. The concern that they have on the vaccine escape is that this new variant may be able to fool T cells. Now, there's been a couple of people, when I said this in our TikTok video, it was like, so it's like HIV, it's like AIDS. I'm like, no, it's, what? No, that's not what it means. No. Remember, T cells, they're like the gang unit. They're like the Vice Squad, right? Deep intel. What's going on is they coming up with their wanted poster. They're looking at, with the, there's the wig and the beard and a clown nose. And the clown nose is that's the last thing. The clown nose is no, this is not. It's a clown. It's a happy clown. That's not who we're looking for. Sorry to interrupt you, happy clown. And then the T cells are going, yeah, we don't need B cells to come over here and kick ass. Nope. It's all good. It's all good. That's what that means. Doesn't mean you don't have a T cell count anymore. And it's just, it's people. Where do people come up with this stuff? I know where they get it. They get it from America's frontline doctors. All right, travel bans and travel restrictions. There's a ton of countries. There's a ton of restrictions. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts, but I will, for your entertainment pleasure, read off the list like it's the school closures. Remember when you would get up in the morning and run downstairs to the TV and turn it on? People that live where it snows know just what I'm talking about, because you were waiting to hear your school system get announced. You remember how excited you were when they announced your school system? And you remember how heartbroken you were when they did it? Damn it, it means I have to go to school. Countries that have implemented some kind of travel restrictions: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, Republic of Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, India, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Singapore, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, United Kingdom, United States. I suspect this list has grown since I made this slide. So what are the travel restrictions that are in place? It varies from country to country. It varies from EU countries. There are some countries within the EU, because the EU decided a few hours ago, that's the list of 27 countries. We're raising the drawbridge. There are some countries within the EU, Italy, France, Portugal, Italy, France, Czech Republic, that put in their own, and Germany put in their own more stricter protocols. And I believe France. If I didn't say France, I apologize. I believe France also. So you have the 27 countries of the EU. You have the UK. Certain countries have put 6 countries in the southern tip of Africa on a red list or a do not travel list or travel restriction list, whatever you want to call it. Some countries have put 7 nations on that list. Some countries have put 8 nations on that list, and some countries have put 9 countries on that list. There are different levels of how much the drawbridge has been raised from country to country. So Israel, UK has raised the drawbridge really high, and they were some of the first that did it. Also Singapore. On the other side of the spectrum, you have India. India hasn't really raised the drawbridge, but basically what they're saying is we're going to take a much closer look at anybody coming from these regions, or people that went to these regions and are coming back to India. We're going to do additional screening of these people when they come in. That's what that means. Right now, if you have travel plans that's going to take you into the southern third of Africa Or if Johannesburg is a major air hub for flying through Africa and also flying to certain destinations east of there, heading to the Indian subcontinent, for example. That's a big jumping off point. So if you have travel plans in the next few weeks, that's going to take you into the southern third of Africa, or particularly you're going to have a connecting flight in Johannesburg, and you're going to be there for, if you're landing, you're coming in, you're waiting 2 hours, you're getting on the next standard, wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, don't take the mask off. It's all good. If you're going to be there for longer than that, defer your trip for right now. I'm not saying defer your trip forever. Defer your trip for now. There's too many unknowns. If you can defer the trip, defer the trip. Here's the thing. These don't work. They don't work. How do we know they don't work? It's too late. And I'm not saying that to be Debbie Downer. This is all politics. This is just to make people feel better. This is what every epidemiologist was telling me this morning. These don't work. They're not effective. And the reason they're not, we already know there's community transmission. And we know there's community transmission in Europe. We know that there is community transmission in Africa. And there's a lot of people to this point that probably, there's a lot of people in epidemiological circles who's like, this is already in the wild. We just haven't detected it yet. So this is probably in the United States. Don't have concrete evidence, but it probably is. And we know from other illnesses that straight up travel bans don't work. First of all, straight up travel bans are impossible. So, like we're going to block any cargo ship that's stopped in South Africa, and we're not going to allow that cargo to come to the United States. Really? We're not going to allow any air crew that has, back to this thing of, United Airlines air crew. They landed in Johannesburg. They're there for 4 hours. So what? We're not going to. They don't work. So this over here is BS, and it's just to make you feel better. So if this puts you in a warm, fuzzy blanket of feeling better, well, then that's great, unfortunately. Yeah, I hate this timeline too. Governments are done playing. That's part of it, Jennifer. There's definitely an element of governments are done playing here. Let's go to the next one. This is an important slide. I really want to talk about this here because I talked about at the start of this. Let me move myself up out of the way. There are variants of interest and there are variants of concern. So there are two variants of interest that are still under the magnifying glass. That's lambda and mu. Interestingly, a fair number of people are still concerned about mu, and I've always been like, yeah, whatever. That isn't to belittle, whatever was harsh. It's not whatever. When I look at mu, the reason that mu made me go, is its transmissibility is pretty low, particularly compared to delta. And I'm really of the opinion, and I got to stress, it is opinion. It is not informed scientific fact, that whatever comes to be the next variant needs to outbreed, for lack of a better way to put it, the Delta variant. If the R naught is below 6, it's going to have a hard time winning against Delta. Unless it is so different, back to those spike proteins, that disease-acquired immune response, vaccine-acquired immune response are like, I don't see nothing. I don't see nothing. I don't know nothing. I'm not calling 911. Then there's a problem, right? That's the second factor. Former variants of interest. So this was stuff that was like, we're watching, but they didn't go anywhere. Epsilon, Zeta, Theta, Eta, Iota, Kappa. So they flamed out. The next one is more important. Current variants of concern. No variant of concern is off the list. So in other words, there's nothing that was a variant of concern that was like, whoops, we're not concerned about it anymore. So Variant of concern is not something that the World Health Organization tosses out lightly. The first one is Alpha. Alpha was winter of 2020, right? That was last year. That was the big one last year. Beta, winter of 2020, which I showed, into spring. South Africa reached about 50% volume of cases, and we saw that Delta smothered it. And that was the end of Beta. Also, vaccine rates very low in South Africa, but Beta, the battery of vaccines that were available out of the gate were very effective against Beta. So even though low vaccinated rate country, the people that were vaccinated were very effective at that. So it was fighting against Delta, fighting against very, very effective vaccines, and it got smushed. Gamma. Gamma is still cooking in South Africa. And Gamma is interesting because that is where most of the, not South Africa, apologies, South America. And that is where most of the Gamma cases are. There are a couple of countries still where Gamma is, 30, 40% of cases, but it's not out competing Delta. It's trying, but it's not really out competing Delta. And globally, almost all of the cases today are Delta. And of course, we know Delta is this monster that has swept across the planet, right? And we're still seeing a growing number of Delta cases here in the United States. And now we have Omicron, this new variant. So that is an important thing here. Gamma appeared, don't hold me to this number, 30-ish states, maybe 40-ish states. And now, so Mu, there was a few cases here in the United States too, and that went out. Gamma, I seem to remember, had a cluster in Illinois, that there was kind of this starting to grow in Illinois, and then it went away over the summer. I would have to go back through my notes and show notes and to confirm that. It's a good question. What do we got to look for? This is like the punchline, right? This is the most important thing. Is Omicron more transmissible than Delta? Now, your local epidemiologist, which is one of the people that we source information from, and I'm a huge fan of Caitlin, and I've evangelized many, many times. Hey, follow Caitlin. Smart woman, puts it in plain English, backs it up, shows receipts. Love what she was doing with that. So there are a couple of experts that are suggesting, and I really stress the word suggesting, that this is 500% more transmissible than the original strain. I really want to be cautious here because if you remember when we had Delta, there were people going, this could be R8 or R9, which is well above mumps. Now, it's not measles, is between R12 and R16, so we weren't seeing, and measles, of course, is like you're in the same room with somebody and you got it. Measles is super, super contagious. So we've got to say this real cautiously because what did we learn is we got more data. Yeah, it's not like R8, R9. It's not, right? It dropped down to about R6. The other thing is remember that transmissibility number assumes a completely unvaccinated population. So if we look at a state like Washington State, the practical R naught for Delta got up maybe at its worst to about R2.5. What does that mean? That means that at its worst, when we were in our worst of our Delta outbreak here in Washington State, for every person that got Delta, another 2.5 people got sick. And then if you think of that branching out on a tree, that's like yikes, right? As you start going up the generation. Of course, you think of something like R6, you start getting into this, because what R6 would mean for every, that's in a totally unvaccinated community, every person passes it to 6. So then those 6 then pass it to 6 each, 36. Then those 36 pass it to 6, right? It's like, whoa. If this is 500% more transmissible, then we're looking at something that's like R13, which is really getting into the range of measles. So that means one person gets it, it goes to 13 people. So is Omicron more transmissible than Delta? We don't know if it's 500%. That's why I say suggesting a respected individual, not a quack, but a respected individual. But we don't have enough data. But what we do have, which I showed in that earlier slide, is it is spreading faster than anything we have seen before in South Africa. So is it more transmissible than Delta? Strong maybe. It's a very, very strong maybe to probably. Is Omicron more vaccine resistant? This is a little hard to tell too. Only vaccinated people are getting it, you liar. No, that's not true. It's not only vaccinated people are getting it. We already know that out of Belgium. We also know that the two individuals in Hong Kong were past the point of needing boosters. And we know that there are many cases in South Africa, both confirmed, probables, unconfirmed, that would definitely be among unvaccinated individuals because South Africa is only 24% vaccinated, total population, based on total population. They're about 40% vaccinated based on eligible population, a very young population there. So there's a ton of people that are young that are unvaccinated. The other thing that they're seeing is that this is spreading in schools and among younger individuals, which we know tend to be unvaccinated. So is it more vaccine resistant? We don't know. And I think we have to be very cautious not to start banging away on the panic button that, oh my God, the vaccines don't work anymore. Nobody is saying that. The only people that are saying that are the anti-vax community trying to spend disinformation and scare the crap out of people. That's the only people saying it. No one else is saying it. I can't say it enough. There is no, I'm going to say it one more time. There is no concrete evidence that this eradicates the current battery of vaccines. There is suggestion in the data and in the genomic sequencing that it has the characteristics, right? If we look where those mutations are, and because we have known mutations that we already know from Delta, because we know Delta is more vaccine resistant than the original strain. So we do know that. But is it more vaccine resistant than the Delta strain? That's a really critical question. And does it create more severe symptoms? No idea we would know this because it was only discovered, it was only confirmed on November 11th. And today is the 26th. And we know that the path for people who get severe COVID, we know that the path from infection to hospitalization to mortality generally takes more than 2 weeks, particularly if you're dealing with individuals who are vaccinated or are otherwise healthy, don't have a long list of comorbidities attached to it. And we know with Delta in particular, sometimes it took months, right? We know Delta make people sicker, but it could take months before they reach the point of mortality from it. We flat out don't know on number 3, and we're not going to know for a while. So is it more transmissible? Probably. Is it more vaccine resistant? Does it have vaccine escape? Maybe. Does it create more symptoms? We have no freaking idea, to be just blunt. We have no idea. I talked about this potential T-cell evasion, which, of course, if it does, then that means it has significant vaccine escape. If it's able to kind of have the T cells go, oh, wait a minute, clown nose. All right, you're good. Sorry, the wig and the beard. We thought that you're a clown. The clown nose. You have a good day. Sorry to bother. Nice, really nice virus. Nice. Was it a virus? No, it was a cell. Totally a cell. Are you sure? Kind of looked like a virus. No. Is he breaking into that cell over there? Should we do something? Nah, it's okay. I could throw in an ABCAB joke in there, but I won't. They are white blood cells. Ha ha! Funny joke. I'm not sure where I was going with this. Let's talk about some good news. There is good news. There's some good news with this. The first one of the good news is in a PCR test. That's the Q-tip up the nose. And oh, for the love of God, this is the other piece of misinformation around here. The CDC recalled the PCR test because they don't work and they're just BS and the PCR tests don't work and they don't show anything. For the love of friggin' God. That is not what the CDC did. The CDC expired the existing PCR test because there is a new PCR test that detects both COVID and influenza. And that's why they expired the old test in favor of the new test that can test for more things at the same time in a single swab up the nose. Stop with the disinformation. Stop. This mutation, it's missing some of the S proteins, which show up in the PCR test. And so when this deletion shows up in the PCR test, the good news is that they can go, oh, this is Omicron. We need to send this one out for genomic sequencing and confirm that it's Omicron, but this is probable Omicron. So other variants, what we've had to do is they've had to send it for genomic sequencing, which is a small subset of the number of the tests that are done. That then provides data on how many cases are there. Now that they know that just on the PCR test, they can look for these S protein deletions, this blank spot that shows up in the PCR test, that's good news. And that's one of the reasons they're able to track this very, very rapidly and very fast. And that's why they were able to go, ooh, we got something different here. And we now, because we've had almost 2 years of practice on how to, I'm just reading this. It sounds like a bad transformer. So we know that they have the ability to identify this very quickly. So that is some good news that comes out of this. So here's the next thing. So what can you do? It's so scary. Stop. Breathe. Don't you feel better now? If you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. That's number one. Number two, if you are vaccinated and you are eligible for a booster, it's real easy right now in the state of Washington. This is real easy. If you were fully vaccinated May 30 or before, you need a booster. Today's only don't get pedantic on me over 4 days on the calendar. I get it's the 26th, okay? If you were vaccinated before May 30, that's 3.3 million Washingtonians. Almost all of them are 18 and above. Only 1 million have been boosted. 2.3 million haven't. Get your booster. Get it now. There's tons of information out there. I see lots of people. Where can I go for a walk-in? Where can I go do this? You can go, find a COVID shot. You can go to the Department of Health website. You can go to King County Health. If you're watching me nationally, you can go to your state Department of Health website. They almost all have information on where you can get shots. Costco, of what I understand, is doing walk-ins. Rite Aid is doing walk-ins, but it's like weird. They only do it like from 2 to 3, and it's only so many doses. And so call your Rite Aid if you want to do walk-ins. Make an appointment if that's going to be a challenge for you. KN95 or N95 mask, wear them indoors, wash your hands. Right? I mean, this is just logical stuff at this point. Avoid crowded indoor spaces. What about eating out? I don't know. I don't know. I would say if you're immunocompromised, certainly it's more complicated here in King County, right? Because here in King County, Washington, we don't have quote unquote vaccine passports, but if you want to go into a restaurant, you want to go to a movie theater, you want to go to a gym, you gotta show proof that you're have a negative COVID test, or you have to show proof of the vaccination. There's some businesses that are doing a crappy job of it. There's some businesses that are doing a great job of it. And yes, there are a percentage of people that have bought fake credentials and they don't give a fluck. And they're walking around with fake credentials completely unvaxxed. And I get all of that. So I would say it's a personal choice at this point. If you're like, damn it, I still want to go out to eat, then my recommendation is, particularly if you're in King County, go to places that are actually checking. That's number one. Number two, go on off hours. Have dinner, do it like at 4:30 instead of doing it at 7 when the place is crowded. If you're doing lunch, do lunch at 11 or do lunch at 2. Do it on off hours when there's fewer people in there. Have it in the back of your head. All of a sudden it gets really crazy. You're like, you know what? Sorry, I want to change my order to go. Just have it in the back of your head. Have that flexibility. Socially distance when it's possible. Defer travel, especially air travel, if you can. If you can. And when I say defer travel, not forever. Let's get some more information. But if you can hold off on the travel right now, hold off on the travel. Here's the last thing I'm going to add, which isn't on this list. And I think this is really important to help track this new variant. At-home tests are not getting added into the data for positives, right? So we know in the United States, because a lot of people are doing at-home tests, that there's probably a lot more positives out there than what we're seeing. There's also a lot more negatives, right? Because way more percentage of these at-home tests are coming out negative than they are positive. So there's a lot of test data we're not seeing in general. If you do an at-home test, particularly like starting now, and your at-home test comes back positive, you do the second test and it confirms positive, get a PCR test. And the reason I'm appealing you to get that PCR test is going to provide data, and it's going to help them track the percentage and the number of cases and growth. And so if you have Omicron, when they do the PCR test, that S protein is going to be blank. That's going to be missing in the test. And then they go, ooh, wait a minute, this is Omicron. And then they could start tracking the data. So if you want to do home test, do home test. And you're doing home test, particularly for, I don't feel good. Let me do a home test, right? Do your home test, pops positive. You're supposed to do 2. You're supposed to do them serially. Particularly if you don't feel well and you get a negative, then you should do a second test to make sure. Likewise, on the other side of the coin, if you're like, I don't feel that bad, but it came back positive, then you should do a second test just to make sure they're that like, oh yeah, problem. I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm seeing like this little thing of text here, and I'm like, what the heck is this little like right here? Like, what is this? It's gone now. Get the test. All right. Questions? Questions from the class. Like, what happens from here? What happens from here is a lot of scientists are going to be doing a lot of research, try to figure out what all this means. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to know a lot more in 2 to 4 weeks. So there's a lot we don't know. The fact, my opinions, strictly my opinions. The WHO going, whoa, we need to have a meeting based on this small set of data and calling it a variant of concern based on the data set they have. Yeah, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. The fact that we are seeing particularly these 3 cases in Israel, they're travel related. Okay. That's good. But the fact that all 3 of these individuals were vaccinated and that one of them was Pfizer and they all had boosters, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. The incident in Hong Kong, the 2 people at the quarantine hotel, and the second person that didn't travel and appears to have picked it up from somebody in the quarantine hotel that was sick with this variant, that's concerning. The fact that we have this case in Belgium that appears to be non-travel related, that this is a community spread case among an unvaccinated individual, that is concerning. The fact that we are seeing this growth going like this in South Africa in this week, and the fact that positivity has gone from 1% to 30%, that's concerning. There is a lot of concerning data here. On the other side of the coin, we've had Gamma and we've had Beta, and Gamma has been pretty much contained to South America. A couple little spots where it's popped up in other areas, but gets smushed by Delta. I think this is what it comes down to. First of all is the R naught, the transmissibility. I've said this for months. It has to be able to, simplistic term, outbreed, outspread, outtransmit Delta. If it can't do that, then Delta or Delta AY42 All right, because that's not Delta Plus. We call that View 21, Delta View 21. View 21 is this strain that's in the UK that the curve is flattening. It's still continuing to grow. We were seeing 60% growth. It's actually flattened out to about 20% now, week over week. That's still not great. It is creeping and still starting, it is growing against the Delta variant that's in the UK, but the rate is slowed down, which is good. But we know that has a higher transmissibility rate. So this has to be more transmissible than Delta AY4 too. Or it needs to be a lot more, it has to need to have the capability to escape vaccine a lot more than the Delta variant. Because then even if they say the R naught, that transmissibility is equal, by the fact that it can spread faster and better in both vaccinated and unvaccinated populations, gives this an advantage then to transmit and spread. That's the one we don't know. So I think the big thing that everybody has to watch for in the next 2 to 4 weeks, one, disinformation and overhype, right? Those are the first two things. There's tons of disinformation. So look out for that. If you see something and it elicits a strong emotional, at a primal level response in you, right? If you read something, you see a graphic, you see a video, and that's a red flag. That is when you need to put your critical thinking hat on. That's one of the first steps in spotting disinformation. And then the next thing is hype, because everybody is in the right. They want the clickbait. They want the search engine optimization. They want that. So you're gonna have to look for that. So those are two things that you need to look out for. Listen to the experts. I take information from experts and try to make it more consumable. That is what I do. And I'm good at cranking numbers. The ability for me, say, to look at weather models applies it's kind of cool. That same ability to kind of look at these numbers and data and then that is a transferable skill. I'm actually surprised how well that transferred in kind of looking for data and patterns. This does not in any way, shape, or form make me an epidemiologist or even smart enough to say, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But I can take data that has been analyzed, have that explained to me, boil that down to a point that people like in my audience can go, okay, I get it. So watch out for the hype, because there's going to be hype. And there's going to be, doomsayers on both sides. And then the next thing you need to just look for in the next 2 to 4 weeks is what's that R naught. I think that's really everything. And then the last thing is, what is, if there's vaccine escape. That's the other thing that we need to look for. What could be silver lining here? Like let's if we try to look at the glass half full, let's say this is like the R naught is 12. I'm not saying it is. We're playing the what if game. R naught is 12. Strong vaccine escape. But symptomatically, it is a lot more mild. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, particularly if symptomatically it really does become like the flu. Say that really loosely. But in the sense that, it makes you really sick. You're at home for 10 days. Mommy, I want cartoons and chicken soup. Where's Boomerang? I want to watch the Boomerang channel or Nicktoons. Right, depends on your generation. You're my generation. You're watching Boomerang. If you're millennial, then you're probably watching Nicktoons. Watch Nicktoons and chicken soup on the couch. If we get to that place, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, because then it's gonna rip through. If we get to that place. That's a glass half full scenario. The other thing is we don't know about the antivirals. Monopulsivir and Paxlovid. I don't have their names in front of me. The two antivirals. That's another wild card in this. The first one, Monopulsivir, was developed as a broad spectrum antibiotic. That was actually completed. The research, the development of that was completed in 2019, as well as phase 1 studies. And it was originally being developed as a broad spectrum antibiotic, particularly for influenza, and they believed that it was going to be effective against Ebola. And data is showing, oh, by the way, it actually works pretty good against COVID. If these broad spectrum, if the antivirals that are on the brink of getting approved, if these are effective, and they're not like some of the other antivirals that are out there, some of the IV injected antivirals that make you really sick, right? The side effects are pretty potent on those. And some of the other broad spectrum medications that are out there are antibacterial, antiviral. If we can escape that and it's effective, that also becomes a game changer, right? Because we have another line of defense. So that's another possible silver lining. If this has this T cell, if this could fool T cells, not eliminate T cells like HIV, don't conflate the two. You have no idea. Just anybody want to moderate the TikTok channel for about an hour? Because it's insane. It's insane. If anyone's on TikTok and wants to be a moderator, seriously, like you can send a message to tips@malcontentment.com. And we will consider making you a moderator at this point because the comment section is flipping insane. It's just been like, what? Where is this coming from? Oh my God. If it does have this T cell evasion, then that means that monoclonal antibodies may lose their effectiveness, which of course isn't a good thing because this is an early intervention treatment. So, Ty, I haven't seen it, but I hear it is nuts. I hear it is not, and I'm not going to get into it. I did read one spoiler, and I'm like, you're supposed to put spoiler alert if you're going to get that much friggin' information. Damn it. Not directed at you. That was an article that I had read. So if I come back over here, this is the article we wrote maybe about 16 hours ago. So I would say there's a lot more information than what's in this article. However, you can go to malcontentnews.com. If you want, please, and you can follow along on what's going on there. Last thing I'm going to close with. Oh, no. You didn't do the spoiler. TikTok is off. That video is just like, you want videos to go viral, but boy, when medical videos go viral, it's just completely batshit crazy. Like here right now, like I'm just like, okay, you're blocked. Like literally, I just like, hey, let's look and see. Okay, we're gonna block this person. I'm not gonna. I'll look at this later, but yeah. And honestly, if I wasn't moderating the comments so hard, and I was just letting people, just say whatever they wanted, this probably would be going faster. But when you moderate comments hard, it does work against the TikTok AI, and TikTok starts throttling the comments. That video has the potential to go viral. And the other thing is, we're only like 900 followers away from 20,000, and 20,000 is like that. It's not a huge number, but that's like a big deal number on TikTok. If you get to 20,000, you're like in the top 30% of creators for followers. You're considered an influencer at 20,000 follows. So I'm like, wow, our social media manager was right. Thank you. I was so resistant to getting on TikTok. I was like, what? Oh, totally. Like the lizard people thing. It's just, they are. I think I've kind of said everything I'm going to say, and I see, by the way, Farmer Barb, hi. Oh my God, I haven't seen you on here in the longest time. I meant to say hi earlier. I saw your name on here. I'm going to close with what's on when we do our daily COVID. We're not doing daily COVID updates because Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, Genocide Day. So we're not going to be doing COVID update. And also there's no data coming out of the state. And I don't know if we're going to do one on Monday because the data that's going to come out of state will be a dumpster fire. So we probably won't do a COVID because just the long holiday and they're not going to have all the data aggregated. So we probably won't do our next COVID update, meaning the full local, state, national. We probably won't do that one till Tuesday. We'll definitely continue to write stories. We'll follow Omicron, what's going on. You see the TikToks when they come up on Facebook. I don't. Did we put that one on Facebook last night? That was pretty late. I don't know if we put that up or not. So, but yeah, that one on TikTok. That one's going like wildfire right now. Anyway, I'll close with this. Don't be afraid. You know, people are on TikToks like this is scary, and so I always say, you're scared when you don't have the facts, and you're scared when you don't have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Don't be afraid. Be informed. When you're informed, you can make decisions, and you can make good decisions. And people are going to have to make decisions on what they think is going to be best for them and their health. And that's kind of the bottom line. But before this news hit, there have been people like myself in the epidemiology community, in the medical community, in the public health community have been saying, like I've been saying this since October, this winter, there's going to be people who are vaccinated, there's going to be people who get COVID, and there's going to be people who get COVID, and they're not going to be with us when we get to the spring. And I think this only reinforces that that's where we're headed at this point. I think we're there regardless of this variant or not. I felt, but this variant just has increased the belief that this is where we're headed. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. There's no reason to go out and hoard toilet paper and canned soup and all that other stuff. Oh yes, and all of the gun nuts are like, yeah, we've been waiting for this. And I'm just like, you couldn't handle 10 days without light beer and a haircut, sitting on your couch, watching Netflix with your wife and kids. What makes you think, like Mr. Prepper, that you're ready for, you're kidding. Like, just shut up with that. Yeah, Roger, I guess a little bit of don't worry, be happy. But be informed. But don't be afraid. French toast emergency. Yeah, we're not super, I'm loving these comments. We're not quite to full-blown French toast emergency here. But especially this time of the year, it's always good to have your French toast supplies. And don't forget, eggnog makes kick ass. Like, eggnog is basically just, you get eggnog, you like drop another egg in it, and you basically got French toast batter. I'm just putting that life advice out there. Just throw another egg in there to thicken it up a little bit. Well, it depends on your scale of how much you're making. It might be 2 eggs or 4 eggs. But if you really think about it, eggnog is just like a cheat sheet for your French toast batter. I'm just putting it out there. See, look at that. Nog makes dope floast. Total. I love that. F-toast. I said floast, but I like floast. Did I just come up with a word? All right. Malcontent. We need to start on second Thanksgiving. It's a long story, but we'll save that for another time. Be good to each other. Be informed. One other quick thing I'm just going to do really, really quick here before we drop. Let's see. Let's see what we can see. I just want to see if there's anything breaking, because this is moving very, very fast. There we go. I want that. I want my tools, and I want you to sort by the most recent. Yeah, we already called about that. Travel ban for U.S. Remember I said it was 6, 7, 8, or 9. U.S. is 8 countries. It looks like they said Australia has not, but I'm seeing breaking that, Australia has not implemented travel restrictions, but in the last 10 minutes, according to The Guardian, that they're going to be announcing travel restrictions in Australia. I would presume New Zealand will probably follow. Joe Biden is asking when members of the World Trade Organization to meet next week to agree to waive intellectual property protections for all COVID-19 vaccines so that people can start sharing what the recipes are and start cooking more of it. That's in the last 22 minutes that's happened since I've been talking. Sky News is a friggin' I used to have mad respect for Sky News. Like at the start of this, their coverage was very raw, very poignant. They're a News Corp, Rupert Murdoch owned, and they've actually had their YouTube channel shut down a couple of times for disinfo. So I wouldn't trust anything from Sky News at this point. I'm still not seeing any reason why it was called Omicron instead of new or ni. So I don't know why they skipped it, because I did look and there is no ni variant, or there's no VOI history of an ni, so I don't know. Yeah, another one here. Australia's getting ready to tighten up the borders. Yeah, I don't know if they'll let me see this. I have a feeling it's going to say, you've done enough here. There's something here. Oh, no, this is interesting. One second, because there's something in the last 45 minutes. And I don't know if there's did I just get clickbaited? I think I may have got just clickbaited. Okay, from Dr. Deborah Fuller, microbiologist at UW Medicine. The concern regarding the number of mutations in that region is that there's a potential that those mutations could make our vaccines less effective because the antibody response induced against the spike protein might be less effective against those mutants. So there's nothing there that there's nothing. I don't want to say it's clickbait, but there's nothing there that we didn't already add. It does not. All right, this is an important story that's come out in the last hour. Pfizer is testing its vaccine against the new COVID-19 strain. Pfizer said on Friday, this is from CBS News, they're going to produce a COVID-19 vaccine for the new virus strain identified in South Africa in approximately 100 days, subject to government regulatory approvals. Pharmaceutical firms in a statement to CBS. The researchers are now conducting tests to see if the company's existing vaccine is effective against the variant dubbed Omicron by the World Health Organization. If not, Pfizer said it would produce a tailor-made vaccine against the variant alongside its German vaccine partner BioNTech. They're expected to have the results from their tests on Omicron in 2 weeks. So definitely need to keep our eyes on that. And then here's one more thing, which is, I think, the takeaway that everybody has. Another virologist. At the moment, we don't know much. And that's true. And I think we're going to know a lot more in 2 to 3 weeks. Anyway, malcontents, that blee, 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 blee. That's all, folks. Be good to each other. Be safe. Malcontent out.
You're the white devil, bitch!
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible